Hello. Hello everyone. Hello, how are you? How are you all? Fabi from Fabi English here. How are you? Let's wait for people to come in. Cool. All right. Oops. I'm just trying to organize one thing here. There. Cool. Sorry about that. How are you all? Hope everyone's okay. So if you don't know yet, okay, my name is Fabi. Okay, I help people get the score they need on the IELTS test by doing the test only once. Okay, I teach English here at English colleges and university in Brisbane, Australia. Okay, and in this lives, okay, exploring IELTS with Fabi, we discuss strategies and things that you can do that will definitely get you the score you need on the IELTS test. And do it only once, okay, guys? We don't want to do the test many times, all right? Okay, if you have any questions, pop them in, okay? If you have a question that is not quite related to the topic that we're going to talk about today, I will keep that in mind for the next live, all right? And if I don't get to your question today, just send me a message, okay, and we'll get to that later, all right? So today, we're gonna talk about a topic that everybody talks about, but I think that people might be doing it in the wrong way, okay? So today I'm gonna tell you why my students don't practice for the IELTS test every day and what they do instead, okay? So as you know, my main goal is to help people do the test only once. Okay, guys, so I've been working with the IELTS test for many years, and there are some things that I always tell my students to do, okay, and they do the test only once. All right, so when it comes to practice, okay, so before I get into what my students do, okay, I just want to talk to you a little bit about practice in general. Okay, so when it comes to practice for the IELTS test, what comes to your mind? You can pop it in the chat here if you want, okay? So when we're talking about practicing for the IELTS test, what are the things that come to mind? Okay, just think a little bit about that now. You can pop that in the messages, but I'm gonna start sharing with you, okay, some of the things that most people think about and things that come up when we talk about practicing for the IELTS test, okay? So one of the things that always comes up is doing full tests, okay? So quite obvious, right? So you're practicing for an exam and then you do a full test, okay? And again, guys, if you're practicing full tests, please get tests from from reliable sources that are authentic. Okay, because a lot of people, they have been practicing from the internet and places that they're not really reliable. So it doesn't matter what score you get on these unreliable sources, it's not your real score, okay? So one way to practice is you go ahead and just go and do full tests, okay? Another way you can practice, you can do full tests under exam conditions, right? So you get a reading and you do it in 1 hour. That's practicing under exam conditions, right? Then another thing you can do is to practice in a relaxed way. That's what I suggest people do sometimes, okay? Which means you're practicing, but you're not really practicing with under exam conditions, right? There's a way that I tell my students to practice in a relaxed way, okay? So these are the ways that you can practice working with full tests, okay? So if you go ahead and you practice a full test, okay, is that practice? What do you think? You just go, do a full test, check your scores, and that's it. Do you think that's practicing for the test? Do you think you could do that every day? One reading today, one listening tomorrow, and then the next day a writing, next day a speaking test. Do you think you could do that every single day? Some people say yes because they are committed, but this is one way to practice, okay? For me, okay, and with my students, practice doesn't stop there, okay? To me, that's just the first step of the practice. Practice, in my opinion, is never finished until you get some feedback. All right? So you do your practice and you get some feedback. But then you think about it, but feedback for the reading? Feedback for the listening? Yes. Always, always, always. We can always get some feedback and manage to improve what we are doing. Okay, guys? So that's one thing that you should all keep in mind. Okay, so the first step of the practice is actually to go ahead and do the test. The second one is to get feedback, and it doesn't matter what part of the test you're practicing. Okay, but a lot of people see getting the feedback not as practice. To me, it is part of the practice, okay? For me, it doesn't stop there, right? Then, of course, you practice your test, you get some feedback, and then you revise it. So again, guys, practice is not finished yet when you finish the test. Practice, then you get some feedback. After that feedback, you revise it. Okay, so when we think about feedback for the reading, for example, we can think about all the, maybe let's say that at one part of the test you got everything wrong, especially maybe part 3, reading academic. So difficult, got everything wrong. What do you do with that information? You try to get feedback, you talk to someone, you get some ideas, you get some light on why you made so many mistakes, right? Feedback for listening, same thing, okay? Why was part 4 so hard? Analyze it, think about it, okay? And when it comes to speaking and writing, it's kind of obvious, right? We need constant feedback because it's something that we produce and we always need someone to look at it, okay, for us and tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, okay? So let's go back a little bit. So we start the practice by getting a test and doing it. The next thing we'll do is actually to go ahead and get some feedback on it. Okay, and after you get the feedback, for me, practice is not finished yet. The next step is actually to revise what you did. Okay, you did a test, got the feedback, and then you revise it. You look at it in details. Again, yes, again. Okay, so most people think that that's not part of the practice. For me, it is. Okay, that's why I think my students practice differently. All right, okay, so we do the test, we get the feedback, and then we revise it. After we revise it, do you think it's the end? What do you think? Maybe yes, maybe no. Not really. Okay, there is one part that everyone forgets. The IELTS test is an English test. And a lot of people forget to study English. Yeah. For me, that's also part of the practice. Okay, guys, it should be, it has to be. Yesterday, I was teaching an advanced class. These guys, they are good. They are very, very good. Okay. There was a bit of, okay, I'm back, I think. So yesterday I was teaching a very advanced class. Okay. They are good. They are highly advanced. And they were studying English. They finished the test and they revised everything and they were studying English, guys. They were learning new vocabulary. And they could be anywhere from a 7 to an 8 on the IELTS test. Yet these guys, they need a really high score because they want to achieve things that require a really high score. but they were doing that, okay? And they are so high and they're still doing it, okay? So that's part of your process, okay, guys, when you're practicing for the IELTS test, okay? So just getting a test, going through it, answering questions, checking your answers, that's just the beginning of your practice. So when we look at practice in these 4 steps that I just suggested, do you think you could do 1 listening per day, 1 reading per day if you have all these steps? Maybe not. Maybe not. And that is why I say that my students, they don't practice for the IELTS test. I mean, they don't practice the IELTS test every day. What they do a reading test one day. Then they check their answers. Then the next day, they might get some feedback, okay? It could be from someone they know. It could be from a teacher, from a tutor, anyone. After they get that, they revise it. And after they revise it, they work on their English. All right, so that's 4 things you got to do. All right? And then, guys, thinking like this, okay, thinking about this, what are we focusing on? Quality, not quantity. Yeah, I don't know if you have already started your IELTS journey, okay? I don't know if you if you are about to start, if you have started already, if you don't even know what it is, okay? But even if you don't know what it is, if you haven't started, okay, guys, I've helped heaps of people, okay? And a lot of people focus on quantity. They think that if they do 10 reading tests in 1 month, they will improve their score. That might not be correct, okay? Practice. Yes, but in a smart way, okay? So I can see that the people who are successful on the IELTS test are the ones that focus on quality, not quantity. And when we are doing, and when you do what I have just suggested, a practice with 4 steps, you're focusing on the quality, not the quantity, okay? Most of my students, when they follow this process, they improve 1 point straight away, okay? Of course, like in my course and everything, we have a specific way that we do it. You know, we have spreadsheets that we write everything on, so it's quite organized, okay? Because you guys need organization when you are on this process, okay? And if you want to achieve results quickly, okay? And it's funny because it sounds counterintuitive, right? So for example, if I tell you, oh, you need to practice, I need to achieve my goals quickly, so I'm gonna practice a lot. Not really. If you don't practice as much, but if you manage to explore everything, you are likely to get a higher score faster. Okay? So that is why my students don't practice IELTS every day. They practice for the IELTS every day, but they don't practice IELTS every day. Okay, guys? Because I don't know if you've had this experience, okay? Maybe you know someone who has been doing the IELTS test, or happened to you. Let's say writing. You're practicing for the writing, and then let's say you get a private tutor, and then you say to your tutor, you say, oh, I'm gonna do 3 writings, I'm gonna send it to you, and you check it for me. And then the person goes, writes, does the writing, 3 writings, and sends it to the tutor. And the tutor looks at it. And funnily enough, the person will have the exact same mistakes in all 3 writings. So what's the point of making the same mistake 3 times? Right? Do 1. Just 1. Do 1. Send it to whoever. Okay? That's how I work with my students, and it works really well. Then you check it, okay, and then you see what you have to improve, what you have to do, and then you go from there. Okay? Yeah. And another thing, of course, that people always forget about is to study English. Okay, guys? Yeah. Studying English is super duper important, extremely relevant to your process, okay? Just recently, I started helping some students. and they need a 7 overall, okay, have been able to get the 7 in writing, but they were getting 7, 7.5 in the other parts of the test. However, and I thought to myself, well, they're getting 7, so their English must be pretty good, okay, right? And then I got their writing, and I do think that the reason they're not getting the 7 is because of their English, more specifically their grammar. Grammar is stopping a lot of people from getting a 7, okay, guys? So if you need a 7 plus on writing, please start studying some grammar. Revise your grammar, okay? And then looked at it, and I said, and they have been getting 6, 6, 6, like never able to get more than a 6 in writing. And then I said to them, have you studied English? I said, what do you mean? They said, since you started studying for the IELTS test, did you study English? They said, no, I want to focus on the IELTS. And I said, well, the IELTS test is an English test. So if you don't study English, you're not likely to get the score you need. Okay, especially at this level. Okay, guys, especially at the level that you're at, all right? So a lot of people forget that step. And even though it's the last step in my suggestions for the practice, I think it's so important because, again, it is an English test. So you guys should be studying English all the time. Okay, so let's recap a little bit. So why my students don't practice IELTS every day? Because we are looking at the quality of your practice, not the quantity, okay? My students, they study for the IELTS every day, but they don't do full tests every day, all right? They focus on improving their skills, okay? And again, guys, just think about it. You have 20 things to remember, okay? Or you learn 20 new things. Are you going to remember them tomorrow? Maybe not. Why not just focus on 5 today? Okay, I'm sure you'll be able to remember 5. Okay, so we focus on quality, not quantity. That's how my students study, and they have been quite successful. All right, does anyone have any questions? Anybody, any questions? Okay, I have a question here. So can I pass from a 5 overall to a 7 in 1 month? That's a very good question, actually. Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends. I think it depends on your level of English, okay? Because if you are a 5, okay, why are you a 5? Are you a 5 because you don't know the test very well, okay? Or are you a 5 because you don't, your English level is not high enough, okay? I am sure that if you practice, okay, you will be able to get from a 5 to a 6. Okay, I think that's quite possible. Okay, 6 to a 7, it's a little bit harder just because a 6 to a 7, when you are a 6, you can be fluent in English, okay? And you are like at an upper intermediate level. However, when you get to a 7, it's more academic. Okay, guys, it's a bit more academic. So that's why maybe you require a little bit longer, because if you don't have that experience with some academic language, then it's going to be hard for you to perform. Okay, so that's my opinion. All right, guys. Yeah. So I believe that improving 1 point in 1 month is possible. Okay. Getting from a 6 to a 7 might take a little bit longer because of what I just said. Just because the language you're expected to know at a 7, it might be different from the experience you have had. All right, so anything is possible, honestly. Maybe you cannot get from a 5 to a 7 in 1 month, but you could get from a 5 to a 6. And then maybe in another month, you could get from a 6 to a 7. Okay, but improving 2 points in 1 month, maybe it is quite possible when it comes to reading and writing. Reading and listening, because they are the receptive skills. But if you want, but but that's the thing usually, but that's quite natural, guys. I don't know if you noticed, but it does take us a little bit longer to improve our speaking and writing. So maybe that's why 1 month improving 2 points in productive skills you might be pushing a little bit, but look, anything's possible. Okay, but from my experience, I would suggest 2 to 3 months for that specifically. Okay, maybe 1 month to get to a 6, another month to get to a 7. All right, okay. There's another question here. Can I help you with TOEFL? No, I cannot help you with the TOEFL test. Okay, guys, I help people with the IELTS test. Okay, of course, when it comes to English exams, some of your skills, what you learn in one, you can transfer to the other one. Okay, but my main aim is to help people with the IELTS test. All right, cool. Any other questions here? No other questions? No. All right, okay, yeah. So guys, so let's do a little recap then. Okay, so the reason my students don't practice IELTS every day is because they study for the IELTS every day. Okay, so just getting the test, doing it, checking your answers might not be enough. Okay. And how's the training with me? Yes, so guys, so I do have a course. Okay, so if you keep an eye on Instagram, okay, there will always be something there telling you when enrollment's open for my course. Okay, so maybe you can send me a direct message and I can tell you a little bit more later. Okay, yes, about my course. All right, guys, so so yeah, so as I was saying, yeah, so again, my students, they don't practice IELTS every day, they practice for the IELTS every day. Okay, guys, so because again, there are so many things that go with the IELTS test. Okay, the IELTS test itself is not exactly what you need. You might need other things, okay? And even working on your skills, right? On your organizational skills, okay? And learning how to do other things to help you with your practice, okay? So that's what I try to do with my students, okay? So they don't practice IELTS every day, but they practice for the IELTS every day. All right, okay? Any final questions here, guys? No? Okay. Yeah, guys, if you have any other questions, you can always send me messages. I've been very good at replying to messages on my Instagram now, okay, because I'm finally getting notifications, okay? So I'm keeping an eye, and I'm also keeping an eye on it. Every day I go there and I check. All right. Maybe it might take me 24 hours to answer, okay, but I'm on it. All right, okay. So anything else? Any final questions that you might have for me? Not really. Okie dokie. All right. Okay. Yeah. So guys, so just remember that I'm on YouTube also. So these lives are available on YouTube if you want to catch them later. Okay. And if you know anyone who's doing the IELTS test soon, guys, you know anyone who has to do the IELTS test anytime soon, okay, just go ahead and tell them. Okay, yeah, question for me. Have you written any books? No, I haven't written any books. Okay, but there are so many good books available that I don't have to write any books. Okay, Laura, yeah. So yes, Laura, no, I've never written any books, no. But I always think about that. And like I said before, there's so many good materials available nowadays that what I do very well, I think I am very good at getting the materials and make it come to life. Yeah, that's what I really like using books. I don't know if you've seen my reels recently. Yeah, I really like using books, guys, because I think that especially the more authentic ones. And I think I'm very good at getting that information and making it accessible to people. So yeah, I actually never really thought about writing a book because there are so many books already there, so many good books. Okay, what is the method that you use to improve your English? Okay, me as a teacher, I I the way I wouldn't say that I'm improving my English, but I'm always learning new things. Okay, so I always think, but that goes for everyone. Okay, guys, it's always good to be able to be exposed to things in English. Okay, that's why I always tell my students to do things that they like in English. All right, because then when you're doing things that you like in English, one, it's easier for you to understand. Second, if you don't understand, okay, you are able to look at it and maybe you can explore more. Okay, so you have a topic that you really like and then you read about it, but there are some words that you didn't quite understand. All right, and then you want to explore more. That's when you really learn. That's how kind of I learned English, because I really like music. Okay, I really like music, and I wanted to translate the songs. So that's one of the reasons why I learned English. Okay, so I feel that the best way to improve your English is through things that you like and exploring it and making sure that you know what people are saying, kind of thing. I hope I answered your question, Fabian. And and that's why, guys, when it comes to the IELTS test, that's why it's also important to explore the IELTS test, especially getting grammar and vocabulary from it, because if you're focusing on the test, right, anything you learn from the test will help you with the test. All right, I hope I answered your question, Fabian. Okay, I think I have another question here. Let me see. Is there one here? What pages do you recommend to practice the IELTS test? Yeah. So pages, you mean like web pages, right? British Council. British Council is the best one. Okay, British Council is the best one, BC. I think the website is Take the IELTS. I'll try to leave the website here. Okay, guys, Take the IELTS. That's an extremely reliable one. Okay, definitely go there and have a look. And any of the Cambridge books also, yeah. So just these books are the best ones. Okay, guys, because they are authentic exam papers. It is really authentic. Really, really authentic, guys. I've been using these books with my students for many, many years, and sometimes my students will get these ones, right? So we practice, and then they go to the test and they get something very similar. Yeah, because they repeat tests, right? They have a huge database of tests, but they repeat tests. Okay, so yeah, definitely. Okay, yeah. So yeah. And another question here. So how do you native speakers learn phrasal verbs? I mean, it's just in daily life, or do you learn the types like us, English students? Yeah. So Laura, no. Native speakers don't know what a phrasal verb is. They don't know. Okay. So yeah. So I just feel that the way we learn English, right, is a little bit different from the way the native speakers learn English. Okay, so that's why maybe we know what a phrasal verb is. Okay, but there's actually a funny story. I was talking to a friend, and then she was studying for the CAE exam, and then she was talking to me, and then she said, "What's the phrasal verb that means blah 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 blah?" I'm like, "I don't know. Which one are you talking about?" And then she turned to our Australian friend and said, "Hey, what's the phrasal verb that means blah, 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 blah?" And he said, "What's a phrasal verb?" I'm not kidding. So yeah, so they don't know what it is. Okay, but if you tell them, oh, pick up, okay, verb plus prepositions, like preposition, what's a preposition? It's just because the way that we're learning, okay, guys. And actually, I was having a conversation last week with a teacher I work with. And she was asking me grammar questions. She's Australian, but she was asking me grammar questions. She said, "Oh, because you probably studied more grammar than I did." Just because that's how we learn. And she actually said that when she was young at school, English was horrible. She hated it. The way they taught was really boring. Okay. And then she never liked it. And I was like, how do you become an English teacher? Said, because later in life, I started learning a little bit more. I ended up doing some English classes at a uni, and then I liked it. And then I saw how cool it is. Okay. So yeah, so I would say that native speakers, they don't learn phrasal verbs like we do. Okay. But I think we have an advantage over them. Okay. Because we are learning the language in a different way. Okay. And sometimes it might be a problem for us. Okay. That we were not born here. Okay. But sometimes we have some skills that they don't have. Okay. Thanks for that. You're welcome, Laura. Yeah, it is a little bit crazy. Yeah, when you start, and again, that's why I like teaching English so much. Yeah, because it is quite interesting. I think it's quite interesting. Yeah. Okay, when it comes to the IELTS test, like I have so many people get the score, and then they do so many things with the IELTS test. But there's all these other aspects too, because we use language to communicate. So that's one thing that is pretty cool too. All right. I think there's another question here. 1 second. Okay, so what do you recommend to practice? English, vocabulary, grammar, and how? Okay. Who asked this question? I think it's Christina. Christina, all of it. Okay. If you're doing the IELTS test, I suggest you do a little bit of everything. But again, guys, English for the IELTS test is different from English for like general English. Okay. So Christina, I think that you should be practicing what you need. Okay, that's why I emphasize the fact that it's so important to get maybe someone to help you in your IELTS journey, okay? Because someone will tell you, hey, you need to improve this. You're making, like just yesterday, I checked some writings with some students, and they had a lot of problems with prepositions. And they didn't notice that. So what do they have to study? Prepositions. However, their tenses were perfect. They didn't make one single mistake with tenses, so they shouldn't work on tenses. You know what I mean? So again, I think that you should work on what you need. And how do you know what you need? Your writing and your speaking practice, they are great ways to know what you need. Okay, great ways. Like, for example, yesterday I was helping a student, and she's really high level, really high. And she didn't make any mistakes. We did some speaking practice. She didn't make any mistakes. And then I told her, I said, look, what do you have to do? All these words that you told me that they were perfect, you have to improve them. Like, oh, makes sense. You see, Christina, so I think it depends on what you need to do. But you should be practicing grammar, and you should be practicing vocabulary always, okay? Because you're gonna do the IELTS test, so maybe you should be practicing vocabulary from the IELTS test, okay? If you're gonna do the IELTS test, then you're gonna do an essay. Maybe you should be using some passive. So maybe revise the passive if you don't remember what it's like, okay? But you should be practicing everything, in my opinion. All right, cool. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Nope. All good? Okay, I'm gonna go now. It was nice meeting you today. Okay, very, very nice. So as you know, if you want to watch it again for any reason, this will be available on YouTube. All right, and keep an eye for the next one. I think I'm back here on the Tuesday. All right, and if you have any requests, send me a message.